Hi, welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. My name is Adeep Mahmood. This is my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about the last week of the NFL season and the college football season. So, before we talk about the games today, continued thoughts and prayers go out to Damar Hamlin's family. He is recovering, which is good to see. It was definitely terrifying when that happened in the game, for sure. What were your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I was, I think you can't help but just sit there and panicking, to be honest, about this isn't just another injury. This is life. It's going to be life or death. Keep going.
Okay. So, no, yeah. So I thought it was a crucial thing. Just get after this mental break on one. But yeah, like seeing the family, seeing the family get better, uh, seeing him recover, that was good to see. I thought the NFL did the right decision with the new rules. What were your thoughts on the new rules on how they were like for playoff stuff?
Sorry about that. I swear, right as I start doing the show down there, my dogs, they see a dog down there and they just go crazy. Um, just going back to what I was saying about Damar, but I'll get to your next question. Indeed, it's hard not to just sit there and think this isn't just another injury. It's just like it's a life or death because like you go into a cardiac arrest, people don't make it out of that. People you go to the hospital and you don't wake up. So I'm still praying for him. I'm thankful that he's doing so much better right now. I mean, he's breathing, he's awake, he's talking to teammates, he's tweeting again. There's a long way back for him, to recover, of course. And who knows if he's even going to play again. I don't even want to really focus on that. But the fact that he's doing okay, even though he's still in critical condition, that's what's most important. It's just the human side of it, I think. And seeing that scene today in Buffalo, the kickoff return for a touchdown, how can you not love sports? Um, it's just something magical about that. And obviously, you don't ever want, the Hamlin situation to occur, as I'm not saying that. But it's just poetic that after something horrible happens, something great happens with the Bills, and that was for Damar right there. And then they did it again later on in the game. They really wanted to win that one for Hamlin, so that was awesome. Um, what was your second
What
question
about
again?
the playoff? The new how they did how they're designing the playoffs.
Yeah. I never really bought into the 8 seed thing. I thought that was just kind of BS in my opinion. The NFL was just someone was tipping them off about potential ideas. Never really believed that. As for the playoffs, I think it's only fair that a Bills Chiefs game should be at a neutral site. The Bills were just never able to finish the game. That's unfortunate. The Bengals, they kind of got screwed there, but you also, you don't expect something like this to happen. The Ravens and Bengals, it's funny that there would have been a coin toss to decide who would have played at home if the Ravens would have
It would
won
have been
today.
done at the Bengal Stadium. The coin toss would have happened at the Bengal Stadium.
Yeah,
If
so that's kind of funny as well, but ultimately that did not happen. It's going to be played in Cincinnati again next week when the two teams meet again. That's also kind of funny. You can just stay in Cincinnati for the whole week. You don't even need to fly home. Um, But I'm mainly okay with it. They did the best out of an impossible situation. Bengals fans can cry all they want. Sorry, you didn't have a player go into a cardiac arrest on the field. You're still the 3rd seed. You're in a great position here. You're playing the Ravens that they may not even have Lamar Jackson available next week, though I know Adam Schefter is saying that they're hopeful and all this stuff. But I think they did the best they could in an impossible situation, in my opinion. What about you?
I think when it comes to these new rule changes, context and the situation behind it always matters. And when you look at the playoff stuff, and I thought it was really icky how the Bengals coaches and players and fans were they were so demonstratively saying they were screwed and all that other stuff. Look, a guy could have lost his life. Like the worst possible. Thank goodness the worst case scenario didn't happen. So the fact is, if you really wanted to say someone was technically screwed to a degree, Baltimore was also screwed because had Baltimore won this game in a hypothetical, like even let's say because I think it's a little unfair to do winning percentage if it's a 16-game season versus a 17-game season. You would have to go into tiebreakers, and had Baltimore won today, Baltimore would have had the tiebreaker for head-to-head, and they would have had the tiebreaker for divisional record as well. So they would have, by just saying going off winning percentage and saying the Bengals won the AFC North, that was textbook definition of asterisk, like before the game was even played. So so the Ravens were kind of screwed a little bit, but at the end of the day, who cares whether it's at a neutral site or not? The only thing that should matter is, can Damar Hamlin live a normal life? And it seems like the answer to that is yes. The next question is, if he can play football again. I think that's a question we can answer maybe in a few months from now. Let's not address that part. Let's be happy that there's a guy that's healthy now, or that is healthy and that is still living right now. So that's good. I think they did the best they can. I mean, they definitely simplified it. Pretty much, it's if the two teams in the AFC Championship game don't have played the same number of games, then it's the normal tiebreaker rules, whatever the normal rules are. If it's not, then it'll be played on a neutral site game. Okay, it's as simple as that. That's all that. It's like it wasn't too complicated. There wasn't very. I just feel like the NFL could have uncomplicated that just by explaining it like that. So then the question is, so I thought that was great. Look, when we get into the Ravens and Steelers, I'll talk a little bit more about this. I just don't. I think the Bengals are acting like like that rich kid that has good toys, but all they're doing is just crying. They're spoiled. They're crying because they don't have one or two other toys. That's what they've been sounding like all year long. And like in this game, and we'll get I'll talk more about the Ravens and like the gameplay there, but some of the celebrations they're doing, like the coin toss, taking the coin toss out, or doing the roller coaster celebrations. Look, I don't like. I think people should be sportsmanlike, but if the Ravens beat the Bengals next week, honestly, if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm saying if we beat the Bengals next week, it's party at the Bengals, the logo in midfield. Party at the Bengals part in midfield, and just disrespect their logo right there. Like that's how spoiled they are. The fact that I'm saying go to midfield just to celebrate on their field, like that's where it should be. But it's definitely they are definitely front runners. They definitely feel like bullies. That if you just there's so much they feel like as long as they're in front, they can puff their chest out. But the moment you fight back, they shrivel up like cowards. So I mean that's what the Bengals really feel. Fans and the players looked like. But let's talk about the rest of the NFL. We talked about the Bengals beating the Patriots. Obviously, that helped the Steelers. They needed three things to happen. Two of those happened, and then
They needed 6 things total the last 2 weeks, Adi. They got the 5 at the start. Needed the last one to get the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet to snap it, and Thanos lost. So
yeah, so we'll talk about the Steelers, the playoff stuff after. But some of the other stuff, like a few things stood out. So you would think the Raiders bringing in Devontae Adams would help. That's a cluster F in that situation. I don't think Derek Carr.
I don't think you mean Devontae Adams. I think you mean Josh McDaniels. Oh, excuse me, noted offensive genius Josh McDaniels.
Oh yeah, and I think that there's a lot of Ravens fans that want to fire John Harbaugh because he's not an offensive-minded coach, or they don't like the front office because they don't bring in a receiver. I mean, look at the Cardinals. They bring a young offensive mind. They trade for 3 receivers, one of them being DeAndre Hopkins. They trade for Zach Ertz. They sign AJ Green, and they're still in the basement of their division. They did all of that, and they're still in the basement of their division. You look at the Raiders. They bring noted offensive genius, like you said, in air quotes, Josh McDaniels. They bring in Derek Carr's former teammate, Devontae Adams, and they get worse. And now that team is in a bad situation, and the only reason you're keeping Josh McDaniels is because you don't want to pay 3 head coaches. Like, you don't want to pay 3 head coaches there. So
basically, yeah. And their owner up there who has that hilarious haircut. It's like that bowl cut that makes him just look like a freaking old grandpa from the 70s or something. Mark Davis, of course. I don't really know what they're going to do there.
I made fun of it. Let's just be clear. That's how bad it is.
It's
Family Guy made a joke of it.
It's bad. I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be interesting. Indeed, Derek Carr, he's gone. I mean, you're not bringing him back. You're going to trade him. I think the Jets are going to be in there because they need a quarterback bad. I think you're going to see the Colts in for that one if they keep Jeff Saturday. I was texting you about this. If Brady wants to come back, that's a landing spot.
Yeah.
That is a 100% a landing spot for Brady. I don't know. I think it improves the Raiders, but man, 46 next season.
But that would keep Davante Adams as well. That would keep Davante Adams.
Yeah.
If you were to
he did say either way last week that he is going to be coming back to the Raiders next season. He said he didn't go there just for Derek Carr. At least, I mean, I wrote about that for work. So we'll have to see. But they have a big decision to make at quarterback. Brady's going to be available. Derek Carr. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo again. He's going to be out there, I think, if Trey Lance is ready to go next year, or Brock Purdy. Who'd you say? Sorry?
Baker Mayfield potentially as well.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is going to be a free agent. I mean, this will be dumb to say. Mitch Trubisky is a free agent. I mean, but the Steelers are going to release him, I think. You don't think he's going to be the backup next season. But the quarterback carousel this offseason is going to be very intriguing. And I think the Raiders are going to be right there looking to see who they can get, because draft position wise, I don't think they're going to be high enough to take one of a CJ Stroud, a Bryce Young, Will Levis maybe, but I don't really know if he's ready to play in the NFL today. Hendon Hooker, I don't know if he's going top 15 in the draft. So I think their best course of action is
a little too risky, depending on the offense you run. But he's high ceiling, but very low floor type of guy. But you're right. I mean, they're not in an envious position. And then you have the head coaching situation. It just feels like a team that's shredded, that's stuck on neutral right now. That's what it looks like for them. But yeah, you're right. But then also Kansas City, what the heck was that? Like the merry-go-round. That was a creative play, but it was definitely
apparently Andy Reid said it was in the playbook. They did something during your practice. He goes, I like that, and made it a play.
I mean, that is expert trolling. Like we're just gonna, that is just expert trolling.
Yeah. I mean, you're playing the Raiders. Who cares? They're having fun out there. It's a game of fun. I don't need to hear all these boomers say like, well, that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful. I don't really stop. Whatever. But it was fine. And then the big storyline of today, another big one. Tell me that you caught 4th and 20. Davis Mills rolls to the right. You're thinking, oh, you can just go down, secure that number 1 overall pick. Nope. Chucks it to the end zone. I think it was Brandon Cooks that got the touchdown, I think.
I think so.
I think it was Brandon Cooks. And I can make sure here if he's in the news. Did he get the game-winning touchdown? I think he did. Yeah. I don't know if he got the Brandon Cooks one. I don't know if he might have. I'll have to double check. But they got the touchdown, won the game, lost the first overall pick to the Bears.
Oh, and by the way, they chose to take go for a 2-point conversion. They could have picked the extra point. They could have taken the extra point. So again, they messed up on both situations. But then again, it's like, so it would be the Bears at number 1 overall and the Texans at 2?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the Texans don't. So I would say this. So based on the fact that the Bears seem to like Justin Fields, I wouldn't say that the Texans were screwed. If they wanted to get one of the quarterbacks, one, you have Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, but also if the Bears are happy with their quarterback situation, the Texans still have their choice with one or the two. So I don't think the Texans necessarily screwed themselves over. Now, maybe in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, maybe they screwed themselves more over in like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, because they would then have the 2nd highest pick in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round, and maybe there's a guy that they want that gets picked before, But when it comes to the difference between number 1 and number 2 pick, I don't think they were screwed over that much. I mean, maybe the Bears go what Will Anderson, maybe the pass rusher from Alabama, which would still leave the Texans. So I don't think the Texans were screwed that much. It's fun to create content because if it wasn't the Bears, yes, I would be laughing at the Texans for not securing the number 1 overall pick. And all. But then I want to go. Let's go back on Saturday.
I mean, they should be fine, but it's just like, dude, you don't
Yeah,
need this reason there. Just take the number 1 overall pick. You know,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Bears will take one of the top 2 quarterbacks because they have Justin Fields.
Yeah.
That would, yeah. So it would probably be Will Anderson if I had to guess, but still,
Yeah.
Imagine if it was almost any other team in that situation that would.
Oh yeah, for sure. If it was like the Colts, well, if it was like the Colts had won, then I could see it now, or not the Jets. I mean, but yeah. So like, I want to go back to the Saturday game, Jaguars Titans. I mean, Jaguars. Congratulations. I mean, Doug Peterson is a good coach. I mean, he's definitely. If you look at Andy Reid disciples, I mean, he definitely has the best coaching tree. I mean. What would you say the top 3 would be? Harbaugh, Rivera, and Peterson
For
Andy Reid disciples. Like
I would say that, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good list. Yeah, Doug Peterson, great job by him. This was a Jaguars team last year that was lost, defeated. I think we can find out the reason for that.
Yeah.
We all know why. And Doug Peterson comes in. This team was 3-7 this year. Dead in the water. They ran the table. They took advantage of the Titans being really injury riddled. I think that's a big reason why the Titans lost so many games, but still credit to them. They turned it around. I think that big win over the Ravens really turned it around for the Jags actually. And their offense is firing on all cylinders. They have a good defense. They're going to give the LA Chargers a good fight. I don't know if they're going to beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers but the Chargers do like charging, so you never know. But that's going to be a sneaky good game. I think the Jaguars can potentially win it. I don't know if they will, but I think it's going to be really close. Great job by him. It's close. I would have him if I had 3 finalists for Coach of the Year. Doug Peterson, Brian Daboll, and Kyle Shanahan for Brock Purdy, but I don't really.
Yeah, maybe because you can make an argument for Robert Saleh, but the Jets didn't make the playoffs. Mike McDaniel.
I would say Mike Tomlin if the Steelers got in.
Yeah, then Mike McDaniel. I don't think he. I mean, look, they got the Dolphins. He got the Dolphins to the playoffs, but he also did get Tua concussed multiple times and showed some disregard. So I don't know if the writers would. He's on their good graces right now. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Doug Peterson for AFC Coach of the Year and Brian Daboll for NFC Coach of the Year. So I think those have to be the favorites in that situation. But you're right. The Jaguars are a good team, and we'll see what happens. I mean, they're going to get Calvin Ridley back next year, so that's going to be that's a good.
That's also big too. That's a great point. I almost forgot about that.
But yes, I mean they did a good job there. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is like good. He has a good quarterback. He was worse than number 1 overall pick. I mean, and then also his success really goes to show how much of a disappointment DJ was for Clemson. Like it really does show how much of a disappointment he was. Like he had to follow up Trevor Lawrence, and we'll see if the kid they have now is more Trevor or more DJ. But yeah, so the rest of the games on Sunday, I don't think there was any other noteworthy games. It was just a normal final week of the season. So let's move on to the Ravens and Steelers. So the Ravens and Steelers game, it really went to show that Tyler Huntley is a backup. Now he has been dealing with shoulder tendonitis, some minor issues with his shoulder, but he's not really a major. He's not really a major backup. But I mean, Greg Roman, he was very deficient. The defense played well. I just think that the defense. The defense played well. The offense didn't really turn the ball over until the last part of the game, and the defense I think got really tired. And Kenny Pickett, I think he is a franchise quarterback. He might not be the athletic ceiling that Lamar or Mahomes is, or a Josh Allen, but he's a good, safe choice to lead your franchise. And obviously, you've seen more from him. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, I think you agree he's a good choice to be a good franchise quarterback for you guys.
Yeah, he really impressed, I think, as the season went on, in my opinion. I think the jury is still out a little bit with him, but this is next year is going to be like the big one.
That's why I say safe. That's why I say safe. I never.
Yeah,
I'm
because
saying,
like now teams have a full year of tape on you. They're going to know your tendencies. They're going to know what you like to do, know what you don't like to do. How do you adjust to that? How do you play? If he keeps playing well and overcomes that, then I'm going to be even more confident that this is the next franchise quarterback for the Steelers. But, great run from them to end the season. People are going to say, like, oh, this wasn't successful. I don't listen to those people. I get it. When you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you think of it? Championships,
yeah.
6. We all know that anything less is not good.
Same thing with the Ravens. We think winning tradition, playoff games, all that.
Yeah. And I totally get that from parts of the fan base. You're right. They've won a lot of games well before I was born. They've won a lot of games in the last 25 years that I've been alive. That said, this was a rebuilding season. Did anyone here have them winning 8 games? 9 games? No. Excuse me. I think most people had them winning 5, 6, 7. The fact that they win 7-2 down the stretch, I get it. Like, schedule was kind of easy, but you play the teams that are on your schedule. The fact that they did that, though, that shows that this is a resilient group. There is a lot of talent on this roster. You have a quarterback in a rookie deal. You're going to have a lot of cap space this offseason. Oh, by the way, with the Jets getting the number 1 overall pick, you now have basically 2 first-rounders because the Dolphins had their first-round pick taken away. So the Steelers have the number 32 overall pick, as well as, I think, number top 6, I don't know, some 16 picks, something like that. So you basically have 2 first-rounders. You have those. You have the young offense that's coming back, a really good offensive line. Your quarterback played well for the most part down the stretch. You also have a good running back duo. Your defense is mostly very good. There's a lot to like about this team, and I think Chris Boswell is going to have a much better year next year. If they can fill the holes that they need to fill in the draft, in the offseason, when that comes to nose tackle, another corner, maybe another inside linebacker if Miles Jack doesn't come back, I think that's another need. And you hire a legitimate offensive coordinator, who's to say the Steelers can't contend next season? You've seen teams go one year they miss the playoffs, so the other year they're really good. The Bengals, that was what happened with the Bengals. The year before that, they were one of the worst teams in the league, and I get Joe Burrow was hurt next season. They're one of the best teams in the league, and that's continued into this year. So, it helps when you have talent that's ready to go. It's just they have to draft and sign the holes that they need to fill in free agency in the draft, get a real offensive coordinator, let him cook with Kenny in the offense, and I think this team will be really, really good next season. But I'm really happy with the finish. 7-2 in your final 9. Mike Tomlin's losing season remains intact. But I understand people aren't going to be upset because that's not the standard around here. But this was a rebuilding year, and they were 1 result away from still making the playoffs. And they probably should have made the playoffs because they lost to the Zach Wilson-led Jets when Mitch Trubisky was starting, and they lost to a Patriots team that was awful on offense all year too. So, they easily could have made it. It's things that they didn't. They have only themselves to blame. But, I'm liking a lot of things going to the offseason, and they're going to have, I think, an easier schedule next year as well. So I'm pretty happy overall, despite not making the playoffs.
Yeah, and then the Ravens, we'll see. I think I'm going to talk about the Ravens Bengals game. I had more fun in this game than I thought I would. Third string quarterback, most of your starters were inactive. It was very clearly they very clearly were looking at this
they tanked that game.
Yeah, and you would think they tanked, but I think this goes to show how good of a team in team construction the Ravens have, and same thing with the Steelers as well, with being in a rebuilding year and still having a winning record. But Isaiah Likely had a little over 100, like 7 or 8 catches over 100 yards today, and that guy is you're at maybe right now when everyone's healthy, your third or fourth best receiving target. Charlie Kolar had 4 or 5 catches for like 42, 43 yards. So this was his first like full game. This was his first game he had more than he had more somewhat of an extended opportunity. I mean, he definitely looked like Dennis Pitta. Like remember Dennis Pitta from a few years ago on the Ravens? He definitely looked like that type of tight end. And you just look at the Ravens right now and you look at between Kolar, Likely, Andrews, Josh Oliver can make plays, Devin like Bateman, they have talent. And I think the biggest issue, the biggest consternation the fans have, or when it comes to the coordinator, is really Roman. And I've been on the Roman shouldn't be here next year, but then I thought about, and then I was communicating with someone on Twitter, Adam Beemore, and because he was talking about like how Roman was toast, and I just asked him, so I asked him what Roman's contract situation is, because the way Ravens work is if you have 1 year left on your deal, they don't want a lame duck situation. So if you have 1 year left on your deal, that is just as good as saying you're on the last year of your deal. So it's so is it that type of situation, or is his contract running out? And Roman's contract is running out. Like Roman's contract, according to Adam Beemore, is out. It's going to end this year. So it makes sense why Harbaugh has been calling out Roman indirectly, because Roman's toast, but now knowing his contract situation, he's done. So I would like to see like what you're saying with Matt Canada. I would like to see more of a strategist, competent offensive coordinator kind of coming into it and just redirecting the resources that he has, because he does have good options. Because when you are when everyone's healthy, let's say they keep Lamar, you got Bateman, Andrews, Duvernay. That's your top 3 receivers. I think if they bring in another one, if they bring in another receiver, that their receiving group is going to be much better. But then you got Andrews, Likely, Oliver, and Kolar, all of whom are receiving tight ends. So it's almost like treating the pass catching tight ends as like pseudo receivers. So they have pieces there, plus with Dobbins and Edwards. So I thought this game really showed that even when they are somewhat tanking, they do have talent, and it's just finding the right cook to use all these ingredients into a really nice dish.
That's all I can say about the Steelers, because they have so much young talent on that offense, and they need to find the right cook to, obviously cook.
And then also Harbaugh, and then also the thing was, a lot of Ravens fans want to fire Harbaugh. Here's the thing, it's very hard to find consistency in the NFL, because you look at the Cardinals, right? And I think you might agree with this as Steelers. You might see what other Steelers fans are saying. We want a more exciting offense for the Steelers. Ravens fans are saying the same thing. You look at like I said before when we were talking with the rest in the previous section. You look at the Cardinals. They're doing what most fans want every team to do, but the Cardinals haven't improved. So consistency is king. And at the end of the day, Harbaugh and Tomlin, they are the standard by which coaches should be. And the innovative mind maybe should be in the coordinators. And I like the idea of the CEO type head coach. So it is going to be interesting. They do play Cincinnati next week, which is going to be it's going to be interesting because
I was going to ask you about that. Like, what is your confidence level going into that game?
After today, I'm confident. I think the Bengals are a bunch of front runners. I think that
spicy. Hey, damn.
I think that they are like those bullies that when they're talking, they feel so empowered. But at the end of the day, like, don't get me wrong, they are talented. They got some good. They have good talent on the offensive side, but they have an ego, right? And that's what they are. They're that team. And the fact that Anthony Brown, like a team led by Anthony Brown, no Andrews, no Dobbins, after the first series, no Gus Edwards, none of the major pieces on that, no Kevin, of your major skill position players were on the field, and you only lost by 11. And the only points that the Bengals got, a fumble, like Anthony Brown fumbled at his own 5. The ball went into the end zone, and one of the Bengals jumped on the ball. 7 points right there. Anthony Brown threw 2 interceptions that gave. Remember that Bengals game against the Buccaneers a few weeks ago, where the Buccaneers just kept turning the ball over like 3 or 4 times in a row, and then the Bengals just had great field position? That's basically what it was like in the first quarter. So, but it was interesting that when the Bengals had a full field, sure, they moved the ball, but they weren't as efficient than the Ravens. They weren't as efficient. It was when they had a shorter field, which is what teams should do. So I don't think, as long as the Ravens can avoid that, can avoid the turnovers, they should be good. They should be good. But also, it is going to be interesting seeing if Lamar is on the field or if it is Huntley. But and then you do have Andrews and you do have Dobbins and you do have Gus Edwards. By the way, if Lamar is on the field next week, it will be the first time in about 2 to 3 years since Lamar, Dobbins, Ronnie Stanley, Gus Edwards, and Mark Andrews were all on the field at the same time. That's how effed up their injury situation has been the last couple of years. That's your core of players. They have not been on the field together since the Bills playoff game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how long it's been. So seeing like 2 years ago, seeing if Lamar does come back, it's gonna be interesting. But I do think that Harbaugh might not be admitting it, but he probably was saving some plays, or he was kind of playing it tentatively, because in these situations, like how would you look at it as a coach? Because you can't show all your tricks, because if you know you're playing them again at the same venue a week from now, you can't show all your tricks the first time around. You got to keep things hidden for the second time around. And the fact that Kolar and Likely the Ravens treated this like a preseason game, and the Bengals they had most of their guys. So it is going to be interesting to see whether that strategy does work for the Ravens. But of course, it depends on health. But how would you have handled it if you were Harbaugh or Zach Taylor in this situation?
Just like what overall, like, you think?
Like, how would you have handle the strategy, the play call, which players to rest?
I would have hit some things, obviously, but also, like, the thing is, like, you're playing a third string quarterback, so you really can't even show off what you have, right? Like, it's a whole different playbook when Lamar Jackson plays versus when he doesn't play. So, I think the Bengals, they'll go off that first matchup because Lamar did play in that one. So they'll probably watch the film off that to see what they can expect. I don't think they're really going to take much from this game. They played a Ravens team without a lot of regulars.
Yeah, and I think you have to, and I think the Bengals would have to take into account Likely and Kolar and what they were able to do, and Sammy Watkins as well, because those guys didn't really make an impact in that game the first time around. So sometimes it's not always the first tier players that hurt you; it's the second tier players that hurt you, because you don't necessarily prepare for those guys. So it's like you spend all your time. It's like with Kansas City, right? It's like you spend all your time, like when they had Tyreek and Kelsey, like you spend all your time stop those two, but then you would have Sammy Watkins or Demarcus Robinson or the running back they had. I can't remember his name, but they have secondary pieces that were able to feast. And so it would be interesting. So that's what I think it would be interesting what they would do there. Let's go talk with the college football playoffs to end today's episode. Last week, Michigan beat TCU. TCU beat Michigan in a nail biter, which was an exciting game. And then Ohio State fans were welcomed by the new year with a missed field goal, and I feel bad for the kicker, but that was literally the first moment they saw of the 2023.
Yep. Yep. The kick went up during 2022. It landed in 2023.
The ball drop meant something completely different.
Oh, I felt so bad for Noah Ruggles there, man. That was
Oh,
two
yeah.
great games, though.
Oh,
Two
yeah.
amazing playoff games. We've seen some blowouts over the years, especially last year. Wow, these were great. I did not expect TCU to win that game. But kudos to them. What a turnaround for Sonny Dykes. Georgia, I didn't think they would struggle that much against Ohio State, but that just goes to show how talented Ohio State is, even without Jackson Smith and Najigba. And I think Travion Henderson didn't even play
Yeah.
either.
No, you didn't.
But no, this could be a good national championship. I think Georgia's going to win again, though. I don't think they're going to blow TCU out. I think it's going to be a 10-point or less game. That's it. TCU, they have that running back that's, I think, questionable play with an injury. He should hopefully be good to go, though. But, Max Duggan can sling it. That's going to be the big key. Him against that Georgia defense, which is, I think, the best defense of college football. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. For a team that had not won a national championship in over 40 years, they have a chance to go back-to-back here. So it's crazy how fortunes can really change that quick. But, great college football playoffs so far, and I think this game is going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see this game, and no one expected TCU. But, I mean, if Georgia wins, I mean, you have to – do you think they replace Clemson when it comes to, like, the pedigree that Clemson gained for a few years with how they were always in the college football playoffs? Do you think Georgia effectively takes Clemson's place there? So it's Alabama, it's Georgia now instead of Alabama, and then Clemson, and then two other teams, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan or.
I do think so, just because Clemson, they're good, but they're not where they have been in the past, and I think that's been due to some quarterback play, roster not being as talented. But that's probably going to change. Dabo Swinney is one of the best recruiters in the nation, even though he's a complete weirdo. But that's beside the point. Georgia, they have the number one class in the 2023 recruiting class. They're going to probably have another good quarterback coming in to step in next year. This is still going to be a very good team going forward. And Kirby Smart's one heck of a head coach. They lost some good players last year, and they were totally fine this year. So I think they should be fine going forward. I think those should be the two locks usually, though I will say Alabama did not make it in this season. That's going to be an interesting team to watch next year without Bryce Young and Will Anderson now. How does Saban kind of rebuild that with a new quarterback? I mean, he's done it so many times, but it's going to be interesting now.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see that. So it should be a fun game. I think we both have Georgia winning, but we think that
I have Georgia.
I think Georgia wins by no more than 5. I think it's gonna be close. I doubt that it'll be a blowout. I think TCU is talented. That's why they made it. But do you think Georgia will win by a touchdown or more?
I'll go just a touchdown.
Yeah, I think so. We'll end the show. Oh no, sorry. We'll end the show on that note. Next week we'll be back. We'll talk about the first round, the wild card round of the playoffs. We'll talk about the college football playoffs, and then we're going to be talking about Virginia Tech men's basketball. They're on a bit of a slide right now. They've lost 4 straight, but we're going to talk about next week whether we do feel confident about their hopes and whether Hunter Couture is going to really how important it is for him to come back. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week for a nice playoff preview.